Hello and welcome to Did You Know Gaming Extra. In this episode, we'll be exploring trivia for games released on Sega's penultimate console, the Saturn.
But before we move on, let's talk about this video's sponsor, which is honestly a perfect fit for Did You Know Gaming, Trivia Crack. Trivia Crack is a trivia game where players compete against their friends and other people from all over the world. And you can too. Test your knowledge in 6 different categories, including history, sports, science, art, geography, and of course entertainment, which don't worry boys, it does include video games. Challenge your friends and show them who knows more, all while unlocking achievements and other bonuses. You can even suggest your own questions and answers for the app, or translate questions into new languages, and even rate questions submitted by other users. Trivia Crack is available on iOS and Android devices, and it can be played in more than 15 different languages. Trivia Crack is the #1 app in more than 10 countries and has over 50 million downloads to date. So if you want to try Trivia Crack for yourself and become part of a huge trivia community, you can download the app for free using the link below or by searching Trivia Crack on your device of choice. And now, back to Stuart.
Things initially seemed set for Sega in their race to dominate the video game console market. They already ran one of the most successful arcade machine manufacturing businesses and had previously made a home console with extensive third-party support, resulting in the overwhelmingly popular Mega Drive, or Genesis for the Americans. It seemed like all Sega had to do was just keep on the same track, but little did they know, a third player was set to join the race: Sony. Feeling the threat of the PlayStation's superior graphical capabilities, Sega couldn't think of a better solution to improve their chances of success than to simply stick in another graphics processing chip into their next-gen console. However, this could also be the exact reason why Sega failed so miserably. As a result of this additional graphics card, the Saturn became notoriously difficult to develop for. The system rendered geometry using quadrilaterals, while Sony and Nintendo opted to have their system render 3D using triangles. This led to many Saturn games using a workaround of rendering square-shaped geometry, but simply setting one side's length to 0. While this meant that shapes were capable of being less boxy on the system, it did result in issues of textures being warped or distorted. Another issue the system faced was transparency, with developers often opting to use a checkered dithering effect instead of having anything semi-transparent. Although with the reality of the television sets of the period, blurring would diminish this checkerboard effect, making it look closer to transparency than it would appear on a modern display. One game that suffered as a result of the console's limitations was the widely ported id Software title Doom. While there was the issue of monsters appearing semi-transparent in most versions of the game now being turned into some kind of chaotic checkers board, many other issues with the port could have actually been fixed, but it was the choice of John Carmack to not fix them. Jim Bagley, a coder who worked on the port, managed to achieve decent results on the game using the Saturn's 3D hardware, but since Carmack wasn't a fan of the effects this rendering style had on the game's visuals, he argued to have the feature removed. Because of this, the game had to run almost entirely on the system's CPU, resulting in a significant reduction in both the game's resolution and the frame rate. Carmack has publicly stated that he regrets this decision, and that in hindsight, he should have been more open to experimentation. The first Sonic the Hedgehog game for the Saturn, Sonic 3D Blast, was simply a port of the already created Sonic 3D released on the Genesis. That said, the port clearly had some extra care and effort put in, as there are some differences like all new weather effects, redrawn graphics to increase detail and colour depth, as well as new animations to the game's scenery. The special stage was also entirely replaced, with the Saturn using a fully 3D half-pipe minigame inspired by Sonic the Hedgehog 2's bonus stage. What's pretty amazing about the Saturn version, however, is that this edition only took 2 months to port across. The reason for Sonic 3D's existence on the Saturn is also due to the cancellation of another Sonic title that was being created, Sonic Extreme, which we've covered previously on the channel. Sega wanted to make sure a new Sonic title was available for the Saturn in time for the holiday season. Sonic 3D Blast wasn't the only well-received port on the system. Castlevania, Symphony of the Night is perhaps one of the most highly praised games in the series, cementing the Metroidvania genre in the hearts of gamers worldwide. The game was initially released on the PlayStation, and of course the Saturn, although exclusively to Japan. Since then it's been ported to a huge array of platforms, but the Saturn version includes a number of extra areas and features unavailable in the PlayStation game. Most infamously, the Saturn version has the underground garden, the entrance of which can actually be seen in the PlayStation version, though it is inaccessible. The player can glitch the PS1 version into allowing access to this area, but it's unfinished, and only a glitched out save point is available. One reason many Saturn players actually bought the console was to get arcade quality graphics in their living room with titles like Virtua Fighter, a series that just so happens to have quite a few interesting Easter eggs and references. For instance, the character Lao Chan, who debuted in the original Virtua Fighter, was actually inspired by mercenary Tao, also known as Tao Pai Pai, from the original Dragon Ball manga and anime. Lao was even once named Tao Chan, likely a combination of Tao Pai Pai and Jackie Chan. This connection also extends to Lao Chan's daughter, Pai Chan. Virtua Fighter's Jackie Bryant is also likely based on Trunks' Super Saiyan form from Dragon Ball Z. We say this because the game's designer, Seiichi Ishii, once stated in an interview that Jackie was inspired by a Super Saiyan from Dragon Ball, and out of all the Saiyans that can achieve this form, Jackie best lines up with Trunks. Another arcade title that graced the Saturn was The House of the Dead, notable at the time for being a game aimed at an adult audience. According to an interview in the May 1997 edition of Japan's Sega Saturn magazine, House of the Dead's director Takashi Oda specifically wanted the game to target adult gamers. To do this, the team made sure no children or teens appeared in the game so that they wouldn't have to tone the violence down. Oda said, "I did that because our target audience was adults and up. From the start of the project we knew we didn't want children playing this game. Had we wanted to target them, I think we would have made the game more about ghosts or something, not zombies. Those considerations are one of the tougher parts of this development." Interestingly, the game was also one of the early pioneers of motion capture. Around half the animations in the game came from motion captured actors pretending to be zombies, but the animations ended up looking a bit too human, and the team had to manually tweak them a bit to be more exaggerated and zombie-like. While some Saturn games were cancelled altogether, other games simply had content that was locked between regions. Powerslave, a first-person shooter developed by Lobotomy Software, contained an Easter egg exclusive to the Sega Saturn port, a mini-game called Death Tank. To unlock the secret game, the player must collect all of the hidden team dolls found throughout Powerslave. This multiplayer title was inspired by Scorched Earth, though shifted gameplay from turn-based to real-time. It was created as a hobby project on the side by Ezra Dreisbach, who put it together in his spare time. Both he and Lobotomy Software co-founder Brian McNeely had an ongoing rivalry over the game, playing it every day religiously. Rather impressively, the game actually supported up to 7 players through the use of the Sega Saturn multitap. However, the minigame wasn't available within PAL versions of Powerslave, known as Exhumed, as it was released before the NTSC version and before Death Tank had been completed. That said, the game would go on to have more life after this, with an updated version titled Death Tank Zwei appearing exclusively within another port of a title released on the system, Duke Nukem 3D. To unlock the next entry to this Easter egg minigame, the player must either have a Quake or Exhumed save game file on their system, or destroy every toilet found through Duke's journey. Some may know Death Tank for its later release, however, as the game proved so popular among players and the staff that a standalone version was developed and released for the Xbox Live Arcade on the Xbox 360 in 2009. This release even included, as seems traditional, its own Easter egg, the inclusion of a version of Death Tank Zwei, which is unlocked by shooting down a supply plane in the main game. And now it's time for this episode's random piece of trivia, and we've decided to speak about Dissidia Final Fantasy. While the game's premise seems like the obvious choice for a spin-off, having the heroes and villains of previous Final Fantasy games fight against one another, it was originally planned for another series, one with a somewhat similar premise. Tetsuya Nomura revealed in an interview found within the Kingdom Hearts 358 Days Over 2 Ultimania that the game was initially conceived with the Kingdom Hearts franchise in mind. He claimed that the project began with Kingdom Hearts characters, but ultimately rejected the idea of Disney characters fighting one another and shifted to Final Fantasy instead. When it came to the multiplayer aspects of Kingdom Hearts 358 Days Over 2, they knew it'd be tough to have Disney approve their characters fighting each other, so settled on featuring Organization 13, as they were original characters created for the franchise. I am Stuart. Well done me. I've got some films, you can watch them on TV.
Thank you to my good friend Stuart for voicing this video. Be sure to go and check out his channel where he talks about cheap crap and cheap food. It makes more sense when you watch it. He also recently released his second feature film, Ashens and the Polybius Heist, so be sure to check that out. I think you can look at it on Amazon Prime. I probably should have checked before I start recording this. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe for more video game facts and trivia into your notification box. Hit the notification bell as well, please.